Hey, hobby perverts. It is time for more perversion.
Second time this week.
Yeah, the redo.
That's right. Director's cut. We cut all the bad stuff out of the last episode, which all of it, it's gone.
It's like Blade Runner without the voiceover. Like we had a Harrison Ford voiceover because test audiences found the story too confusing of the original episode, so the computer destroyed it.
Yeah,
and we have to do it again.
Yeah, we put the very real outline run list into an AI, and we have it write the episode, and then we have a separate AI score the episode. And basically, we said exactly what the AI said, and it scored poorly. It's gone.
Yeah.
Well,
so
sad.
Shout out the test. Shout out the test audiences.
Horrible.
Thank you.
What's up?
Nothing.
I heard some news.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, word on the streets, you're a truck guy. You're a big Ford truck guy.
That's true. I am now a F-150 Platinum Edition driver, and it rules. Oh shit! It got really sorry to cut out. It's like very windy outside all of a sudden, which probably means a tree branch is going to fall through my greenhouse or in the yard. So, take a pause. We can edit out the pause, but I am going to go lock the door so the dogs don't run out there.
Sure. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right, I'm back. The storm got wild, so I just want to make sure the dogs are safe. Anyways, I didn't check to make sure my F-150 is safe, though, which, is now my prized possession as I have acquired it. The GR Corolla is sort of getting fixed. They told me today that, the dealer is not being cooperative with getting them the parts, and one of them is back ordered. But so I got to deal with that. But I have a F-150 Platinum Edition. I'm now a truck guy. I got it as a bit, and now I am not sure that it's a bit anymore. I am addicted to the truck life.
What happened?
Well, it turns you into a Republican pretty quickly, and you just start having Republican thoughts. And you get addicted to just being above everybody in your soft cushioned turret that can run everybody over. And you get the Big and Rich going, you get the Garth Brooks, you get the Lone Star, all of that. I had a little the former Dixie Chicks, the current Chicks.
Yeah, no, Dixie. You're sorry to say it, you're canceled.
That's true. No, actually, since driving the truck, I insist that they be called the Dixie Chicks. It is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous machine. Like I guess I get now why they're so popular with suburban psychos.
Yeah,
because it really is an old man car. Like it combines, back in the day, and even my grandfather currently, they want a big ass sedan, because they're comfortable and they feel like more secure or something. Like, I don't know. My dad always had a theory that they wanted them because, they know they're going to run into stuff. So they,
I mean, I'll say that the first time that I, hit anything with a vehicle, I was in my 1992 F-150 flare side, beautiful little truck. It was blue. My dad was working at a Buick Olds dealership. Joe McCarthy, that's logo was just a smiley face, like literally the smiley face from Half Baked from the weed company. Like that was the logo basically for the car dealership. But they got this thing used. My dad talked my grandma into buying it somehow. So my grandma bought this truck, and then eventually my dad ended up with it, and it was my first vehicle. But we went to our first drinking party. I was like 2 weeks into being 16, and my buddy got drunk. I didn't get drunk. And he was in my passenger seat, and I'm like, hey, do I have room over there? It's like a classic cornfield road, blacktop driveway, cars parked on either side. And this is the 2000s. So people had old boats that their parents used to drive. And I'm like, hey man, do I have room? And he's the first time he's ever been drunk in his life. He's like, yeah, you got plenty of room over here. And I'm like, okay, can you like get out and check and make sure that was okay? And he's like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. The next day, my dad and I are washing and waxing the truck in the driveway, rubbing turtle wax. And I answer the phone, and it's my buddy Bean. And he's like, hey man, you didn't happen to hit my sister's truck last night, did you? And I'm like, I might have, but Brad told me it was fine. He's like, yeah, it's definitely not fine. It was like $700 worth of damage to like this little like off-road kitted Ford Ranger. But my iron bumper on my F-150, perfectly fine. My truck was fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's very weird because like I said, it's a platinum edition. So it's like basically like if you remember the Lincoln Blackwood, which was essentially they made like they took an F-150 and just like made the inside like a Lincoln Continental or whatever.
Sure.
And so it like ostensibly is bad at like what it's made for. Like I put the muddy dogs in it, and like I'm gonna have to fix the truck. Like I'm gonna have to clean it out because it's like leather and carpet and stuff.
I'm looking at one now. You got a 5-liter V8, 20-inch wheels.
I have the twin turbo EcoBoost.
Oh,
V6
okay.
Yeah. So
I haven't spec'd one yet.
But yeah, it is just a very like it is addicting. Like I said, like now I get why people like them, but yeah, it's so strange that they're basically now like Buicks that are just really tall.
Yeah.
And because I mean, this is like a $70,000 truck.
Yeah, it starts at 65.
Yeah, so it's I mean, it's like it does confirm all the hatred I had for how they ruin the car industry and how they're deeply unsafe for like everybody around them. But like, no, I'm like, but it is awesome. Like, it is sick. Like, and I like still can't park it. Like every time I'll get in a parking spot, like get out and be like, oh, I'd like totally.
Yeah.
Like I'm in other spots. And,
well, that's what Patrick, our buddy Patrick, like we went to try to go to Springfield to go to the motorcycle races, and it got rained out. But he had the cars.com like F-150 hybrid at the time. And we drove that down, and I was like, it had like the panoramic roof and the 360 vision and all sorts of stuff. And it was just like, this is wild. But like, you can't park that in Avondale. There's like nowhere to put that car in the city, that truck, that vehicle. But but riding in it, I mean, it rode pretty nice.
Yeah. I guess the only real use case I could come up with for this truck, other than you like want to impose yourself on the world and then but also be totally cordoned off from the world, is like, I guess if I had a job where I was like towing a trailer all the time, like it would be nice to have something like that. If I was like, I was like a cheese delivery man or something, but it's like every time you come up with it, it's like there is like a better, cheaper option of things for it.
Yeah.
But like, I guess, if I had like a crew of dudes and we had to, or what, whoever's, and we had to tow a trailer and sit in the car for a long time, like, I guess I could see the use for this thing, but like, it is just wild that like that's like 40%, 60% of like new cars sold are like these things, and it's like
I mean, I remember
you could easily just have a Buick. Like,
I mean, my dad had I don't know that it was even the V6. Like whatever the like Chevy work truck my dad had when he was a painter in like the 90s, it was the most underpowered truck. Like even as a kid, I realized this was an underpowered truck, and it was, but the inside was covered in plaster and paint, and the bed was full of paint and had like 2 ladders on it. But that could be accomplished by a fucking Subaru Baja. Like two ladders and a couple buckets of paint could be accomplished by almost anything. That's not a big deal. You don't need that.
I mean, that's always been kind of like the people who have like started to dig into like kind of the national perversion of trucks have said is that like the excuse that you need it for work doesn't really hold up when you look at the people who you would assume use a pickup truck for work. They use transit vans.
Yeah.
Because it actually has room for your shit.
Right.
And so like it really like these trucks, I mean, what was funny too is I saw when I was driving it today, I saw a guy who was driving another F-150, not as nice as mine. You know, I have the nicest one. So, but it was a regular one. But like, and I think it was a fleet vehicle, so it had some sort of blue collary company on the side, but like they weren't carrying anything in it. It was like purely so like the guy could show up to jobs and like look like he like could be trusted either by the customers or by the people he's in charge of. It's like, dude, like. It's like that car like 30 years ago would have just been a Ford Taurus. Like they would have just given the guy a Ford Taurus. You know what I mean? Like they'd be like, what do you need a truck for to drive? And it's like, no, I gotta now. It's like it's just insane how like every use case that we used to have for like we used to have more options. So you could apply a more specific paintbrush to your situation, but like also people just weren't like. It wasn't like you had to like put on this show of like masculinity or whatever you want to call it with the trucks. Like, but like I said, again, I get it. It fucking rules to drive like in a very very sick way. Like it's obviously not as fun to drive as the GR from a driving perspective, but like it's a different experience. Like it digs down in some weird part of my brain. Yeah, that like I was like, this fucking rules.
I do think there's something. I do think there's. So it's like you get into trying to have a car that responds immediately to all of your inputs, but then sometimes it's like you need to just drive something that responds 3 seconds later, and it's like, wow. It's really it's like it's like
we had
robo tripping.
We had Oldsmobile Leros and Bonnevilles, like shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so strange that like that role has now been filled by like 3-row SUVs and pickup trucks, like unnecessary pickup trucks. But I will say my you know, coming out of the bit a bit, you know, I got it because they were like, do you want an F-150? Like, it's no upcharge. And I'm like, yeah, that would be really funny because everybody knows I hate pickup trucks. Like, it's, you know, a big part of my car brand or whatever, I guess that you could say online.
Pretty malleable,
is
apparently.
Like I do. Yeah, apparently I'm a liar. Yeah. You know, I was just jealous. But I was thinking now I would like really like to possibly convince Sarah to replace the Jimny with Tacoma or something and put a lift on it so we could actually go off-roading, because while the Jimny is capable, it's just too slow to drive to the places that we could go off-roading. And I was like,
that's fair.
I was like, I really would like to get into that. And, you know, now I'm a little bit more open to trucks. Like I see the fun.
Well, I mean, the thing that sucks is just that, like, I mean, the Toyota truck, the Tacoma of the 90s, was an affordable vehicle that you could have that was useful, and you could also go and lock your hubs and go and drive off-road. Now those cost more than a car that makes sense for anybody to own.
Yeah.
Even though they're the same vehicle from the 90s and they're in bad condition.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing is like finding a reasonable truck is obviously like next to impossible. Like I could maybe look at Colorados, like used Colorados and that, but it's like finding something that would be like tasteful, you know, those things just go for so much now that like I'm because again like because for whatever reason these cars have been chosen by specifically American car manufacturers. They're high margin and people will buy them. And so they're like, okay, well, that's what we're selling because we make a shitload of money off that. We don't make a lot of money selling you a tiny hatchback.
Yeah.
Like we have to sell 2 hatchbacks for every 1 truck we sell. And yeah, it just sucks that like now even like reasonable trucks have been eliminated. And now I can't even be like, oh, you know what? Like I could find a use for a truck as kind of as one of my fun vehicles. It's like I almost have to become like a jet ski dealership guy, like, you know.
Well, I can tell you as the grandson of a jet ski dealership guy, the only thing I was good at selling at the motorcycle shop when I was a salesman was jet skis. You mostly lose your ass. Yeah. You mostly lose your ass selling a jet ski because they cost $20,000 now. They start at 12,000 and go to 20, and then go above that.
Someone shows up to a jet ski place, and you're like, and you can't sell them a jet ski. I don't think you could sell anything. Like it would be my.
No, you're supposed to say how hard it is and how good of a salesperson I am.
Well, I mean, but jet skis are so awesome.
You're also selling a jet ski to like a surgeon.
Yeah, I don't I can't imagine like if someone shows up like entertaining the idea of owning a jet ski.
Oh, they're already over. It's already over. It's already over.
You can't convince them like to sign the papers. Like there's no help for you. Yeah,
it's
there's no help. Anyways, so yeah, enough about trucks. I guess it does kind of feed in, but like we kind of wanted to talk today, I think, about how kind of clout has
well, I mean it ties in. The tie-in is that like in getting this rental truck, you've lost the grip on what's funny about having a truck and where you actually enjoy the truck, and now you're literally stealing truck valor. We're gonna talk to a guy later, Hayden, who's in.
You drive trucks. I am an F-150 guy now.
Don't fucking okay. I was an F-150 guy fucking 20 years ago, but whatever. The thing here is that like when it comes to being online, I mean, you're shit posting about being a truck guy now and listening to Garth Brooks and the fucking car park next to the boat put in. You don't even have a boat. Yeah. You don't fish. That's just such bullshit.
I have fishing poles.
This is such bullshit. You have 3 beers.
Put them in the back of the truck. That's a good idea. I need to mount them in the back of the truck so everybody knows like I'm a real guy.
You need to figure out how to drink more than 3 beers and not pass out, and then you can worry about fishing and being a truck guy. But no, but I think there is something interesting here, and there's multiple angles on this of like what is me doing something and just doing it, and then what is me making it something else that I can tell people I do and get some sort of feedback for, whether that be like being like you're the expert and we all love you, or just getting favorites or accounts or clout or influence or whatever. Like what is the difference here? Because I mean, you see this all the time, especially in hobbies. Like you start doing a channel and then it blows up on TikTok. We're trying to do this project here, right? Like you might be like, well, aren't you guys trying to get some influence? And like that's the point of this conversation is like in doing any of these things that are somewhat cynical, like where does the line of I'm doing this because this is fun to me and this is a thing I enjoy, and where is it like I actually hate talking to my friends every week because we're just trying to get clout out of this, versus we're trying to get Ling Long tires to give us tires for all of our cars so we can go do track days, and like we think we deserve that because we get 100 people to listen to a podcast. Like that's nothing, but this chase is prevalent. You see it everywhere, and social media like continues to push it.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, like, I mean, obviously I got the truck because it was a zero investment way to make a joke on Twitter, and to my wife. Like, I still haven't, I'm picking her up at the airport to like basically prank her, like, with the truck. Like, like, yeah. Did I get an understanding of it out of the joke? Yeah, whatever. I did. But yeah, I do see a lot of people that like, it is like you build, like, especially I'm gonna use cars because that's a lot of the social media that I'm active in for hobbies. I'll see a lot of people who will do things like buy a Miata or buy a 350Z or buy an RX-8 or stuff like that, and their first moves are to, like, I mean, they probably do like them on a level, but like they'll get the body kit that everyone says is the good one, and like they'll do it in this exact way that will lead to you getting to post your Miata or whatever, your Z, or anything on Instagram, and then like one of the big aggregate accounts takes your picture and shows it, and then everybody loves you. And it's like, it is weird because yeah, I do get the impression from like a lot of people into cars, whether it's because it's expensive to get in and you want to try and find a way that you can meet your goals faster or more affordably, or make goals that you wouldn't be able to afford. And just like, oh, like I built a car that I don't even really like, because it's a pain. Like a lot of people like lower them obnoxiously and it's their only car, and you can't drive a car like that regularly. They'll stance it. They can't. It's unsafe to drive. It's not even fun to drive. Like it's actively makes it's a hindrance to you, like using your car. And I think, yeah, a lot of people, especially stance people, are like me with the F-150, where they get lost in the bit and they don't know what they are actually like doing because they want to anymore, and what they're doing because like it will get them faves, or they feel like they have to like it, or like they can make jokes about how hard it is to like live their life with the shitty stance car.
Yeah.
And like
look, leaving All Out, the AEW wrestling pay-per-view last September, some guy was driving by in the parking lot in the suburbs. He was like, "Hey man, those wheels on your car are sick." And I was like, "Dude, thank you. That's like really nice.
Yeah,
it's really nice of you to say that to me."
Well, yeah,
and it felt great, but I'm also like, I'm absolutely not going to post that I bought wheels to put on my car, like on the timeline, because it's just like, that's really nobody's business. Well, because I'm like embarrassed to do it.
I feel like stuff too, like the thing was, so like on my Miata, like I painted my wheels because I wanted them to be rose gold, and I matched it to my roll bar and stuff, and I thought it would look cool. And like I think a certain kind of person would be embarrassed to do that.
Yeah.
And because they feel like, oh, like if people that I think are cool see it, or I post it online, I'm going to get roasted for being on reps or plasti dipping my wheels, because like that's poor.
God,
that's what poor people do.
But the he on reps though meme is so good. I got to find.
I mean, they are unsafe a lot of times. I can't necessarily recommend using reps, but
I was showing Claire's nephew when he got his Altima. I was like, "Hey man, check this out. check out these reps on eBay." And he's like, "Those are kind of sick." I was like, "Yeah, dude, this is why you need to get the NLI agreement when you go to college and play football, so that we can get some reps on your Nissan."
Yeah, but like it's like I think a lot of people like get lost in am I making something that represents myself, or am I going on internet forums and Instagram and Twitter and shit and being like, oh, this is the platonic ideal of how I need to go about.
And I think the most
buy these wheels,
the most base and like the saddest version of that you see is in like, you go into any subreddit that's about hobbies or things like this.
Yes. Yeah.
And somebody like posts a picture and it gets 20 upvotes, and then like a day later they go, oh wow, you guys really liked my picture of me playing disc golf. Here's another one. And like everyone's like, what are you fucking talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? This isn't viral. Like, it's like, you know, people on Twitter like, oh my god, this was doing numbers, and it's got like 100 faves or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, but and it's like, and you know, there's times where you get excited and you should be excited, but like the idea that getting attention at all, or getting that, like, or doing any project at all, like, you can't be doing it for the attention. You can't be doing it for the clout. You just have to be doing it because you like it. Like, that's the whole fucking thing.
Your
like,
example is pure to me, because it's like that
guy is excited. That guy is excited.
That guy's like, oh, like, I'm excited about this thing. I posted a picture and then I found out that other people get excited by it, and that's exciting to me. Like, that's pure to me. Sure. That's what we do.
But you know what I mean? Actually, like, my argument is that their purity is tainted at that moment that they get that clout that wasn't even real, because then it goes from, hey guys, I was doing this today, isn't that fun, to, hey, then the next day I went and decided I needed to do it to show you. And now you've siphoned off. That's my big problem with Reddit, is it really facilitates that kind of idea, because the upvotes and the downvotes really encourage this kind of group thinking, where it's like, oh, we have like authorized opinions on how you do everything. And you know, it's great. Like, people joke that like the only way to get around all the targeted SEO garbage on, like, if you want to buy something, like, you know, I want to buy a nice vacuum cleaner or whatever, is you have to type in like best vacuum cleaner Reddit or whatever. It's great. But like, if you're active in those communities, I know you can start to feel very toxic. Oh yeah.
Because they will start enforcing this opinion of like, you have to buy these things or else you won't be making it correctly. And if you posted the things that you make, I think a lot, like, those people would never notice, like, you know, and they get punked all the time on Reddits, where like, especially like guitar Reddit or whatever, like some guy would be like, oh yeah, I played like this piece of garbage that like you guys, and then that becomes a new group think opinion. It's like, oh, actually, you don't have to spend that much money. You can like buy.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we talk about this in
practice, like that guy did.
Yeah, yeah, we talk about this all the time in guitar chat, where like people are like, I have to get all these guitar equipment things because Jay Mascis uses them, and he was like, I was trying to go to the pawn shop and buy a Stratocaster, and they like did a bait and switch, and so the only thing I could afford was the Jazzmaster, and then he was a Jazzmaster guy, and everyone's like, man, the Jazzmaster, you need it. And it was just like, nobody gave a fuck about them at the time, where everybody who was making 90s music like that was buying cheap guitars because they were not working real hours of work, because they didn't have to, because you could pay cheap rent and be a dirtbag. I mean, it is like it's harder to be a dirtbag now, which sucks ass for all of us.
That's very true.
People are like, you know, how did the fucking Friends people live in this rent control place and never work? And it's like, because you didn't have to pay anything for anything.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point, is that like kind of like capitalistic extraction has like put its tendrils into everything. And so now it is, I mean, and so I get the impulse to be like, oh, like the only way I can afford to like build the car that I want to build, or like, you know, like I was going to say racing, but like obviously racing, like you have to get sponsors more or less.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we used to get them as a motorcycle shop. The amount of faxed items that were misspelled of people that needed sponsorship, I mean, you have to.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, yeah. So I get it that, like, you know, but like I think it's one thing. Like, I have a friend who, like, he does a lot of builds on old BMWs and old Lexuses, and he has a BC Racing sponsorship. I don't really know what that entails, but like he basically gets a discount on coilovers and stuff. But he was already using their coilovers, you know what I mean? Like, so he's like, okay, well, I'm happy to say I used them because I already was saying that. Like, I already was like, yeah, I put BC Racing or whatever on my car. And so now I just get something for saying that. But like, yeah, I do feel like, yeah, a lot of people just, they get like really consumed with like, I can't do this affordably. I have to do it the way that people will respond to online. And then I can afford that because I did it to get online, and it just becomes this weird like
Yeah.
Ouroboros of like getting lost in a bit.
Well, I mean, we were looking today at that Lexus that somebody was like, take over my car note for me.
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it's fully modded out with like carbon fiber
Fucking
panels
most
and
car
and
I've
just
ever seen in
yeah,
a
it looks
long
real.
time.
It looks like it looks like a Hot Wheels car that's been stepped on. But but it's like this person had like $40,000 worth of car note left to pay, and was like, I just need somebody to take over this for me, and the most that you'll give me on top of taking over this you can have. But it's like, you can't do that. You can't buy the car on 24% interest and then add every component to it. Like, you have to be somewhat smart about it. Like, I'm not going to say I was a genius for buying a Volkswagen, but like I had an idea I was going to put stuff on it, but then like, things didn't go the right way, and I don't have a job, and now I'm like, man, I'm paying for this Volkswagen,
Right.
but I'm definitely not modding it.
I think it's a lot too. Like Nolan on the Donut media channel. It's a great car YouTube channel. I like them a lot. They're very positive and realistic about how things work. He has this old Chrysler that he bought basically when he was a teenager, he had something like his Chrysler that he is now. But anyways, so he goes, when I was a kid, I always like would see in like car magazines, like so and so did this build and it took him 7 years and shit like that. And he said, I'd always think like, well, I mean, it wasn't that much work. Like, how could you not get that done faster? And it's like, because these guys were like constrained by money, constrained by time, those kinds of things. But they did it because they did it the way they wanted to do it, because like they had the idea of exactly what they wanted, and they just took the time to get it done. And sometimes it doesn't get done, and sometimes things change and whatever. But like, I feel like, I do see a lot of guys online, and we love to laugh at them, obviously, in the Discords and the hobby and in the Twitter chats and stuff, because it's like they think they're gonna like cheat the system by like, because like they're gonna be like so good at it that everyone's just gonna hand them money and stuff. And it's like, man, why are you in this then? Like, I get that like everybody wants to own like a sweet ass car that is into cars, like, but like it's the process. Like you gotta take some time to yourself. Like, part of the fun is that like I had to save money, and like I had to do things in a certain order, and like I had to be patient, and I had to learn to appreciate the thing I had and the little things I was doing, like, and find other things maybe to do with the car while I was working on it. And
the only good grift of somebody taking investment money to build their cars was when Sleep got the advance to do to do the album that eventually was Dope Smoker, and they just spent all the money on like rebuilding their old cars and buying weed
and like building those like incredibly expensive custom amps and shit.
Yeah. And then they released one of the most iconic albums of all time. So if you can steal your boss's money and build the ride of your dreams, don't go and email. Don't like try to I don't know what, like flirt with. Don't flirt. Well, I mean, if you can make an account where you flirt with the Pet Boys account and it's funny, then yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, we should take all the money we can from them.
I would say, what you want to do is you want to come up with a realistic goal, and if as you start doing that, if people do respond to it in a positive way, enjoy that, because that is a very enjoyable thing. Like that is part of why you do it. You want other people who like you identify with or identify with things that you like to say like, oh, like that's cool, I like what you did. But you're not going to get that if you go into it trying to impress them. Like you want to go into it picking out what you want to do with things. Like, and then if people respond and they want to give you money, then you can evaluate that, and maybe you can have bigger goals or whatever, take things in a different direction. But yeah, don't be the bad car Instagram guys that like that are way overextended I mean, I don't have much room to talk. I technically have like $1,500 on my Miata note for a car I blew up,
yeah, that's true. Look,
but you know,
you can. At the end of the day, you should want to fuck your car. Like, that's fine. You should want to. You should want to fuck your car, and you should like your vehicles.
Don't be the kind of guy that finds a partner based on what they think other people want to fuck. You pick what you want to fuck.
That's for you to decide.
You fuck it.
Yeah,
and you're gonna be happier fucking that.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, whatever you're doing, like if it is, like making your home the way you want it, making your appearance whatever you want, like do it for you. Like you can't do any of it. Yes. Like anything, like the time that you go out and you try to go in public and stunt in your outfit and you dress based on what you think other people think is cool, you're like self-conscious the entire night. Like, when you're not honest with yourself about who and what you want to do.
Take feedback and appreciation from people, giving it to you, but don't. It's very delicate. It's a very delicate thing. And you don't, I will say, we're obviously roasting people that are probably in their early 20s. And I was equally as stupid about things and very concerned with what other people thought.
So we didn't have posting. It was just, you just went on Facebook and it was just like Adam is feeling silly, tongue out face.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit the cell at the mall. But I mean, in anything though, that like it should check in at least that you're doing this because it's something that you want to do and something that's bringing things into your life. And
that's true.
Just continue to balance that. Yeah. You have to keep balancing that, like pursuing the idea of the thing versus pursuing the thing. Like, what are you doing? Like, at the end of the day, like whether or not I change components of my car, the most important thing about me and my car is that I get to drive it to some twisty stretch of road and go and have a lunch and have a day that I remember and that I feel good. And then it gets me where I want to go. Like, it doesn't really matter whether I wrap it in British racing green wrap. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as I'm happy with what's going on and I am enjoying my life. And again, checking that between what's the bit of being the guy that gets the car and like, what's the becoming a guy who's on the Volkswagen Vortex forums yelling at people and making fun of them and telling them they shouldn't put reps on their GTI and being a shithead. Like, just let people do what they're going to do. Offer your advice. And do what you're doing for yourself. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, one thing I definitely learned in the middle of my life is that it's a lot easier to try and find a job that takes care of you and you can leave behind as soon as possible and in your head than trying to merge your interests into your job. And obviously people have to do those cool and passion jobs, and if you go for it and you're happy, hats off to you. But I will tell you that probably most of the time, if you're coming into a hobby thinking this will be my life's mission and I will make a living from this, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, and it's such a pandemic thing, right? That it's gonna make you your money. And I'm reluctant to end up back in another tech job that's just going to lay me off versus, doing some amount more of hustling, but enjoying myself. But there's a balance of that. Like, where's the line between getting benefits and getting a decent wage and
feeling like
being
you're not
able
just
to
wasting your life.
Yeah. And we haven't found it, and we haven't found it because there's systems in place to keep us from finding it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the ultimate hobby is trying to not kill yourself under capitalism. So
that's the point of the podcast. Keep waking up.
All right. Well, before we get too far, we should maybe just cut the interview before we just start turning into a group therapy session.
We should do that. Sign up for the Patreon, and we'll all share our thoughts about being crushed.
Yes. You can have those. Yeah, have those for money. You got to pay me for my internal trauma.
All right. Let's talk to Hayden.
I'm gonna kick it off kick it off to our friend Hayden. Let's get to that. All right, as promised, we are here with our buddy Hayden. Hayden, how is it going?
Hey, man.
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining, and honestly, for joining again.
Yeah, I guess the jig up. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's a conversation so nice we'll have it twice.
That's right.
I know that this might not be, what Dad wants you to hear, but he said it wasn't good enough, and that's really why we're here again.
What had happened since we recorded, and Hayden told us a lot of really insightful and intelligent things, is Adam in the distance of that time, which was Wednesday, became a truck guy.
Yeah, he became.
And so I said, you know what? Let's re-record this with the reality of when this will be released, of where Adam will be a truck guy. And because you're gonna be out of town, and it would take way too long for us to get to your truck guy phase.
Yeah, after we finished the last episode, I really thought maybe we shouldn't have used that word so much, but now I realize that was Adam, becoming a truck guy.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with us. And who do you want to introduce yourself? We can say a bunch of stuff about you, and you could say stuff about you. It really is up to you.
No, I'm Hayden. You may have, if you're on the hobby chat perverts Discord, you may have talked to me. I'm in there hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sandblaster by trade. I do heavy equipment and different old trucks. I restore antique old trucks and stuff. And but in my free time, I own way too many old Dodge trucks. And
how many?
3 currently.
Okay.
3 Dodges and 2 Fords.
2 are running?
No, 3 Dodges and 2 Fords. Most of them are pretty much running.
Okay. No further questions?
But I'm also a garden, and I frankly do too much, but that's kind of the fun of having hobbies.
Yeah, and I think that, basically, Hayden is somebody that you will see on the timeline. You were driving that huge quarry truck the other day. What was that one? Was that old Chevy?
That big old. Oh yeah, the big C60. That's a grain truck.
Yeah, just drive. It looked like you're having a blast. And so Hayden, how did you even fall into? Who was your path in? Was Pat your path in, or were you connected to somebody before then?
No, I think it was Adam. I think Adam brought me in.
Yeah, I think you followed Southpaws a bit, maybe.
No,
actually, then are you Canes? Are you Hurricanes guy? Maybe I just found you because you were generally peripheral to North Carolina people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just, I know you had the L-Dog at the time, and I was probably saw you through a mutual follower and was like, this guy knows what's up.
This guy wants to be a person.
Little did you know, I did not know what's up at all.
Yeah. You said, I think Hayden, what you were thinking is here's a nephew who needs an uncle. This guy needs a real uncle to show him the ropes.
Probably somebody passed out on the ground, mineral spirits and a can of Bondo next to my head. And,
look, if you're not a hobbyist, if you don't accidentally inhale enough chemicals to fall and pass out once, you have to learn your limits.
Dude, my buddy came back. I was doing it in his garage because he has a garage, so he lets me borrow it when I need to do stuff like that. And he came back. He's a mailman, and it was Sunday, and this is when he still had to work on Sundays because he was like, "There's some the lowest level of mailman has to still deliver Amazon packages and stuff."
Yeah, really bad contract.
So he comes back at about 1:00. And it's just blaring Dave Matthews Band. It reeks of industrial chemicals, and I'm asleep on the floor with 3 beers next to me, and he legit thought I was dead.
But
he starts screaming. Yeah, he starts screaming.
Okay, this is interesting because I've said, the first episode I was like, you have 3 drinks and you get a little weird, and you're like, I need more than 3 drinks, but nobody can prove that you either had 3 beers and passed out, or you huffed a bunch of chemicals.
I think it was the chemicals.
The 3 beers. 3 beers. You heard it here first. He drank 3 beers and passed out on his Cadillac.
I've never passed out on 3 beers. I'm very that I will have to duel you.
Sound off in the comments. Sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think. He either did or didn't pass. I'll post a poll on the.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know. It's like Hayden's one of those guys. It's just felt like he's always been on Twitter. So probably he falls into either very cool guy or fed.
Oh no. They don't make feds that get into this kind of stupid shit. They would never think as low as me.
Actually, no. Honestly, I've had 1.5 beers, and now I kind of see it. I'm kind of tying it together. I'm seeing now.
Yeah, deep cover in the swamps of North Carolina, sandblasting diesel air compressors. I guess when you put it that way, they don't really like to work very hard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
he's like, I got to go put my daughter to bed, but his handlers are contacting him.
I mean, I'm much more afraid of my daughter than the CIA. Throw me in a fucking black site before you get her mad at me.
Yeah, so you do have a kid, which I know we kind of wanted to talk about. You were mentioning that that's kind of been a new challenge, or the kid is a new hobby of yours, raising human beings. But no, you were saying that you kind of have had to learn a new way to approach everything now that you kind of have more demands on your life.
Yeah.
And the truth is having less time to do stuff for myself kind of works. If you only have 30 minutes or 15 minutes to do something, you're gonna actually do it. You're not gonna sit around on your phone as much and wish you had something to do. Because if you got 30 minutes after putting your daughter down before you got to go to bed, you're gonna pick up your little beekeeping book and read that for 30 minutes and get a lot more done generally. Yeah, I mean it's been good. It's made me more mindful of my time with hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing, right? Even in the context of doing dumb stuff, right? Like trying to make posts for this or whatever. It's I could be practicing sim racing. I could be doing minifigures. I could be doing tie-dye, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I should try to do something for this hobby thing. And it's just well, at what point, how much work should you do on the hobby thing until the hobby thing is taking away from doing your hobbies or, things like that. But so it's I have a lot of time right now because I'm unemployed. Right. So but I've also been really bad about being oh man, I should have used this time like this, or I should have spent this hour that I wasted reading Dwayne doing the Lil Joe and the leather coat bit for hours laughing, but I could have gotten something done, right? But at the same time, it's you can't do that. But you do have time, and it's about appreciating the time that you do have and looking at it as opportunity and not as this you can't be your own. You can't be your own performance review, right? Like your own manager giving yourself a performance review.
Well, that's a lot. Obviously, maybe some people know me from before when I covered sports and stuff, and that was a big part of that journey of kind of learning to analyze my relationships with sport. In that. It got to a point that show was very hard to do because I did not really care about watching sports anymore because it had become I had become through a lot of things more interested in exploring myself sexually, obviously, but and I still watch sports, but even that was a big start of, I guess, kind of the hobby pervert journey of like self-expression and self-betterment or whatever. In that, like, you know, I got challenged by one of our guests who was a professor in cover stuff, and he was like, look, man, he's like, sports are not watching professionals. Sports are like doing it. Like, that's like, there's so many more people, like, that's so much bigger piece of the pie. And so then I kind of became like, oh, you know what? Like, I want to play hockey. I want to, like, now I bowl a lot. I play golf. Like, and like, I just get so much more fulfillment from that, you know? Like, so I think that's kind of like how we're here is like, yeah, I think a lot of people get very consumed when they look at cars or they look at people who do art or people who make music and shit. And they're like, oh, like I can feel like I do it by passively consuming it. And I think that, you know, you're kind of bringing up this point is like, yeah, that's fine a little bit, like, you know, obviously, but like, you know, you got to get out there and you got to get in the dirt.
Yeah.
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 And that's not to say I don't look at my phone, because I'm going to let you guys know. See, collar guys look at their phones too.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
And I
Well, you know, you do get yelled at working at the racism factory and looking at your phone while you're on the line, but
yeah, unless you're currently sending us alerts.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're keeping your metrics up, your handles per hour at the MediaCom call center.
Yeah.
So Hayden,
yeah, exactly.
Hayden, I think the stuff that you're doing is stuff that people kind of wish they were doing, right? To some degree, like the stuff you're doing for money. Right.
Oh.
It's stuff that people like, you know, at least think they want to do. Like people are like, man, I wish I could take a rusty truck and make it beautiful again and put it back together and fix the transmission and do all these things. And these are things that you are doing. So at the end of the day, like these fun things, and I know sometimes you're like, I wish I could quit working on the bad truck and start working on the good truck, which is my own truck, which is funny in of itself. But I mean, you have been mentioning that like something that you're enjoying outside of working on vehicles and building air compressors is gardening and finding a way to find joy and enjoyment in that. And I think that's where you said that you've really been like taking your time with finding minutes and time that you can go out and spend working in that. And so how's that kind of been working out for you?
It's been great. I kind of got my ass kicked a little bit. Spring just happened out of nowhere. Like it was cold a couple weeks ago, and now there's literally pollen, like as a fog. Like it's silent all over here, but yellow. But no, gardening is good because you can get, and especially you know my circumstance, you can get like hobby tunnel vision, obviously, and burn yourself out so easy, you know, or you get hung up on like a big project that you're too busy or nervous to tackle, and it's good to have like a fallback. You know, it's good to have a little garden to turn around and go plant some fucking cucumbers or try growing a new kind of watermelon that you've never messed with before. And
I think the beauty of growing is that like growing specifically like a garden, it's like way more dynamic. Like every year something different happens. And it does require an intense amount of patience, which is what I like.
Yeah, I was gonna say gardening really taught me patience. And, like I was like I would be like I want to make a change and see it reflected. And like doing bonsai was like, oh man, you gotta just sit here, dude. Forget about the tree for a while.
I mean, and again, like what is the point of hobby but to just like do something that could be an entire waste of time? Like I remember like the Bob Moog documentary, the Moog synthesizers. He was like an Asheville guy, and he had his little vegetable garden at the edge of the hill, and the rabbits or something had came and ate all his stuff, and he's like, well, they have to eat too. And I was like, fuck, that's so sick that the guy who is like synonymous with synthesizers was like had that awareness and that patience with the world to be like, yeah, I spent all this energy growing a garden and the rabbits ate it, but like at least they got something good to eat. It's not covered in fertilizer and pesticides.
That's gardening. That's kind of like the beauty of it,
right?
And it's fun. And even if something goes terribly wrong, it is like, I'm so fucking mad at hornworms every year, but at the same time, it's like, oh,
yeah, send them to me. I'll feed them to the bearded dragon. She would love that.
But no, it does. It teaches you patience, and the other thing is if I'm really fucking hung up on one of the trucks or something, pulling a motor or whatever, doing timing or whatever, I'll say, well, I'm not gonna get anywhere, losing my nerve, getting frustrated with this. I'm just gonna go, plant some, water my shit or plant something new or build a little trellis or something, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a retreat and a little bit of zen, like Adam was saying, it teaches you patience.
You gonna get your daughter involved this year?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get her try to get her to play around in the dirt. I'm sure she'll mostly just eat it.
Well, I mean, it's it's probably. I mean, it's as long as it's not full of copper.
I mean, I'll that's a completely different area of the farm.
I'm sure you'd find that first.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the unexploded ordnance.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, no, the gardening thing. It is fun because it's like, it's so simple, but like at the same time, it is cool because it really does kind of tie you into like a rhythm of life, and that's why I kind of feel like it's a hard thing to get into initially, because like I was saying, like we've been saying, like you have to have patience about it, and but once you go through the seasons of like, okay, you prepare, like you notice the signs of things, like you're saying, like it came a little early this year, and like that kind of stuff, like then it kind of starts to just feel like it's moving faster in a lot of ways, and I kind of like that part because it's like a background hobby a lot of the time. It's like, okay, like as it's warming up, I plant the seeds, and then I can go do, then those all go, and then I also know it's time, I probably to knock out a big project on the car, and or get my summer tires on, and like that kind of stuff. Start signing up for track days and blah blah blah, and then as you're enjoying the summer, different things come up, and then Sarah's got so involved because in North Carolina, I mean, it's a great state to garden because you basically get 2 seasons, so she's more of the gardener. I do the bonsai stuff and grow some fig trees, but yes, she'll be like, all right, like I know that this thing's about to cash out, so like I need to plan this new row, and then what can I get in there, and then she even does a winter one, like we have kale and shit out there, so it's kind of cool how it like lets you feel like you're part of the universe.
yeah.
You're like the fucking guy on the Tool album cover, like as you're out there gardening.
There's so much. I basically every time I go and look at my tomatoes, I feel like an Alex Gray poster. But like, I mean, there's so much cool shit. Whether it's like I've seen diagrams of how to like take all the sticks from your yard and you like build a pile of sticks and cover it in leaves and put dirt over it, and then people they plant it, and they like do that somewhere, and then somewhere else they do this other thing, and then like or people are like, oh, I think you talked the other day, you mentioned, did you put some cardboard down over your garden? How did that work?
It's going good.
Basically, the idea is you put some sort of a moist, weird surface that mushrooms could attach to. Was that the idea, or
no,
just that stuff will get slimy enough that weird things would happen?
Yeah. So the idea is, instead of like going and tilling up a big patch of grass, 1 year you put something over it. It could be a black tarp, it could be cardboard, it could be anything. Just some kind of ground cover that's going to kill whatever's there. And then you kind of create a layer of topsoil with, that vegetation and that.
Do you put leaf litter or anything over it, or?
Yeah, leaf litter. I put a bunch of like straw and grass and leaf litter over it, and then covered it up, and that's going to be, hopefully that's going to be topsoil next season. And I did something similar with that last year, but I didn't really add any kind of vegetation to it, and that's been a pretty good garden for me so far. I mean, it's improved the soil quality a lot. And the other thing it does, you mentioned the mushrooms, is because you're not tilling up all those root systems that are already there.
Right, yeah.
You're not disturbing like the mycelium networks.
Sick. That's sick. Sick.
Two in a row.
They're all talking to each other. They're all talking to each other, and they communicate. And the forest uses them to communicate.
Yeah, and
can we count how many episodes in a row can we say that?
Well,
luckily, now that there's a lost episode, then now we're 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Asterisk. But it's sick, and I think there's so many ways to do things like that. Like, all we really do here is have a compost. We don't have any like crazy processes that we do with our stuff. We just have some crappy raised beds, and the compost, and that's really all that we have going on. Is it's just you go and dig around in the tomato garden, and there's just a bunch of eggshells in it.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, it's gardening is another one that's really scalable, and it is accessible to anyone. Like, you can start with a fucking tomato plant on your balcony.
What I was going to say a while ago, though, is that, there are a lot of people that don't even have a balcony or have a space in the city to grow. So unless you have the space in your apartment, so like Jeremy,
I will say you can use a closet. I grew
I'm sure that
trees in a closet for a long time.
I'm sure that the listeners of this show know how to grow trees in closets just fine. But but Jeremy was growing like herbs and stuff in a tent and in his living room, and had like the whatever those like weird little almost like ceramic balls that are almost like you'd have in like a fish tank as biofilter. He was like using those as substrate and had a pump going, and like it's very cool and you can do that. But like luckily I just have a yard and the landlord will start the seeds, and then Claire and I basically garden for him because he forgets about them after he plants them.
The bush.
But I remember in like undergrad like asking the landlord like, hey, can we till a section? And they like allotted me like this basically 3 tomatoes worth of land that my grandpa and dad came over and helped till with an old Tecumseh. Actually, my dad has it. I was going to say, I don't know where that thing is. My dad has that. I can't wait to make that into the world's slowest go-kart someday.
Yeah, I know a guy who can paint that thing up.
Honestly though, the red on it is iconic to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to see it another way. That's the thing that sucks about gardening. Obviously there's all those countertop herb kits and things like that. My friend Jake used to do, he was really into aquaponics, where you have an aquarium at the bottom, and then he would have a PVC pipe with a bunch of lettuce. And so then it's
tilapia or the shrimp or whatever.
Yeah. Or you could even do Oscars, and then you can be like a cool fish guy and have stuff you're growing. But they had this, actually they lived in the building Talia Hall is in, and it had like a roof light. So they had that like in there to catch the light off the roof. Very cool place. But there's stuff you can do. Obviously it's just not as easy as tilling and working the land, but it's a bummer.
And that hydroponic stuff like always tastes like shit. It's never very good. Like, I'm not trying to. If you have to get into it, you have to get into it. But like hydroponics, like we have like the Aero Garden. Like I got it for Sarah for Christmas one year because it's cool. Like, it's a cool little thing. I've actually given it out as a gift, and so it's gonna make this sound really funny, but it works well as an herb garden. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
You want to have a little herb garden to have fresh herbs.
Yeah.
It's great. But like Sarah will like put lettuce in there, and it's the worst fucking lettuce I've ever eaten in my life. It tastes like nothing. It has like compared to the shit that she'll grow in the ground, like that's like hardy, has like, like you just realize, I think that's another thing you realize when you garden is just like how fucking crappy the food you get at the grocery store is too.
Yeah.
Like, like it's just weird. Like I was saying, like with the season stuff, like I think that's another big part of like what's cool is like you realize like, oh, like people ate like different things at different times, like out of necessity. And like, so maybe I should be more like that. Like maybe I shouldn't be trying to eat tomatoes in January because they're not good. It's like maybe I should save them as a nice treat for me to, think of summer, to be like, oh, we're at the height of summer. I get to eat a delicious tomato.
Yeah.
And then I can the rest. Like, we can a lot.
Now, who would know what's in season? Chef Thomas
Who?
Keller from the French Laundry. He would know exactly
true.
what's in season right now.
He actually invented eating in seasonally.
That's right.
They did not know that before. He like discovered it like an ancient knowledge.
Right.
Like, from the
But
Mayan calendar.
only after Gavin Newsom invented seasons.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why he goes. That's why he goes to French Laundry during COVID.
When I lived out there, it was weird getting legitimately good tomatoes and like peaches and shit in January.
Yeah.
Like, so, that's why people in California, their brains are like so scrambled because like they literally live in like utopia. Like like they live in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I was going to. Garden of Eden is somewhere in LA, but unfortunately they paved over it to make a fucking parking structure.
Yeah. I'll just stay here and next to the beautiful Great Lakes. See you fuckers when the ocean takes over your state and you don't have any drinkable water.
You guys are not going to give me that Amy Grant joke?
I didn't hear it.
No?
When was it?
Come on. When Hayden said they paved over heaven with a parking lot. That's like the Amy Grant song.
Paradise.
Sound off in the comments. Amy Grant heads in the comments.
Grant heads, what's up?
Yeah.
Hayden, how much?
Album coming out.
Hayden, how much time would you say you spend in your trucks listening to Garth Brooks and posting pig poop balls at minor baseball celebrities?
About 100% less time than Adam.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
I
Perfectly executed. This is great. You should be on all the time. It's perfect. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
No, I somehow had a years-long head start in heat, and he beat me to it by a country mile.
Damn. Damn.
Well, it is difficult. I had to download the Amazon Music app just to get the Garth Brooks greatest hits because that's the only thing it streams on. Because there's no CD player. I would have just gone and bought the CD.
I mean, it would have been a better deal.
Well, yeah, because I'm gonna have to remember to cancel the free trial. I don't have a truck anymore. Man, I can't lie though. I thought when I got it and I drove it home, I was like, "This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever driven in my life." Like, I can't believe people drive these. And then I went bowling. I had I had a responsible amount of beers, 3 beers. I did not pass out. 3 PPRs. Okay. Yeah. So 1 beer an hour. I was under the legal limit by a well amount, but I was bowling and feeling good. Get out there, drive it home, blasting.
You were blasted?
Some Big and Rich.
He said he's blasted.
No, I was not blasted. No. I was, I blast some Big and Rich. I have the windows down. I'm above all the people. I'm cruising
above the legal limit.
No, well under. I finally got it. I finally saw why 70% of new cars sold are pickup trucks.
Whenever I drive whatever my stepdad has at the time, and he gets a new truck pretty regularly because he'll when he does drive it, it's like he's driving it with a boat to Canada so they can go hunt grouse or something. So it's like when he's driving it, he's putting huge amounts of miles on it, pulling a trailer and things like that. So he ends up putting a lot on them. But whenever I drive anything he has, I'm like, God, this rides like a fucking brick shit wagon. Like, this fucking sucks ass. It's not fun. Granted, I drove an Element, so it's like I'm not used to a cushy ride. But man, his F-250, I would have rather drove that into a wall than drive it back from Kentucky.
That is the weird part about driving this, is that, I obviously have an actual utility vehicle in the Jimny. And that thing obviously is a nightmare in terms of ride quality. I mean, because it's 2 solid axles and leaf springs, and it shakes, and the steering is suggestive at best. And but I mean, obviously it's fun for different reasons. But it is wild driving that thing because it was basically driving the Eldorado, but 18 inches in the air.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I get it. I texted Hayden last night. I go, it's embarrassing me how much I like this thing.
Yeah. I did like driving. We had a 98 F-250 that was the motorcycle shop truck. It was a huge piece of shit. So much lifter noise. Lots of shit was wrong with it. But I would like, I'd be like working in the parts department at the motorcycle shop and nobody'd be around. And like our GM Roger would be like, hey, you've got to go to Rock Falls and pick up a jet ski that I just dealer traded for. And you got to take them this 4-wheeler. And it just was driving the shittiest F-250, but I love that fucking stupid thing. It was great. But like, there's a critical point where it has to be shitty. I wouldn't drive a shitty new truck, but an old shitty truck, yeah.
Well,
it's a U-curve.
I had the dogs in it today, and it's muddy because it's been raining like nonstop. And I took them to the dog park, and like I'm gonna have to like detail this car before I give it back. But it's like it's so funny. No, they like warned me about the dogs. I had the dog with me, and so I gotta clean it out. I gotta vacuum it out and shit. But yeah, it is so funny to me like how useless it is like for its stated purpose. And that's like not even what attracts me to the car. Like it does. Like none of the ostensible reasons for owning it is what I find enjoyable about the car. It's that like I now feel like a Republican.
But I mean, when's the last time you drove like a Sprinter van, an E250?
Time ago.
Because I rented one from Home Depot and went and got some furniture from my grandma's house before we sold it, and driving that with Jeremy down to Peoria, like we were having a great time. Yeah,
but you're not high. That's the key. You have to be
high enough, honestly.
No, you're not. You're not near where.
I'll lift one. I'll dealer lift one.
Get the E350 campers. Those are pretty sweet. That's what you need to work on next, Hayden.
What happened with that Winnebago?
I'm still in talks with the crazy person who owns it. Okay. So here's the deal: is it's a Commander. It's like a Dodge Commander or something. It's like a '74 motorhome. Mm-hmm. It is completely rotten. If I put it on a trailer and tried to drive it down the road, it would fly off. Like most of it would be gone. But it has a little 440 big block with a 727 hidden inside of it. And I'm currently in talks with the owner of it. Like, hey man, let me scrap this thing for you.
Yeah. So you were talking about trying to get that motor.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get that motor.
What were you gonna? Do you have something to put it in, or you just want to stash it?
Basically, just to stash it. But I have always wanted like a Jeep M715. It was like the Jeep Gladiator pickup truck when they were cool in the 60s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Those ones look great.
Yeah, like soft top. Long step bed, and they have a famously bad little straight six in them. And I'd love to put
the 4-liter, the AMC 4-liter.
No, it was called the Tornado, and it was like a 2. It wasn't the AMC 4-liter, but it was similar. It was more like a slant 6 than it. But they sucked, and it would be really cool to replace that with a big stupid 440.
Oh man,
yeah.
The only time I see anything like that anymore is like whenever my dad has a boat, which is now. So he's got like twin Mer Cruisers in it, and they are huge and loud and very sick.
Yeah, I want to give people a little secret advice is if you see an old piece of shit boat, it's probably got an
cool motor that's got limited hours on it.
It's got an Oldsmobile 445 in there,
or a 318, like a real heavy duty Marine 318. There were an endless amount of the cool muscle car motors set up for boats. Yeah. And they're still cheap sometimes.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people got the 455s for their gassers and stuff from marine engines, because they would pull them out and then put them in the boats, and then
and they've usually got.
But a lot of people don't necessarily have your access to ancient commercial sea vessels.
That's true.
I'm out of the loop on the auction for fucking Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, this is pretty much advice for people who live like in Wilmington and New Orleans.
Yeah,
that's true. You're right. You're very right. But just drive around and see if you see like a horrible motorhome or a horrible boat, and just ask.
Hey man, check your privilege.
Well, it is funny because a lot of those drones that have like really crappy motors in them, though.
Yeah.
Underpowered motors.
Hayden, something I wanted to touch on, because like I know that before you and I had talked, I was mentioning like trying to do silk screening and screen printing and things like that, and stamping, and you mentioned like like you could sandblast maybe like a stamp or a sign, and that your parents had done that, and that your kind of introduction to doing sandblasting and painting was like that your parents had done sign work. Like how how did they come into that, and was it like an artistic venue, or is that something that was kind of just a family thing even before that?
No, my grandfather was a printer, and he started like our local newspaper back in like the 60s.
Oh, wow.
And so,
see, that we didn't even know.
Yeah, so all my uncles and my dad were also printers, and my dad had some experience in sandblasting when he was a kid, just, as a pot smoking teenager trying to find some like shitty job. And so then he,
I was going to say, I didn't know what the sandblasting angle was for smoking weed.
No. But he had like a union do nothing job at some dumb factory that no longer exists.
We'll edit that. He had a powerful, strong union job.
But he got laid off at some point in the 80s, and he had worked in like sign shops and had experience sandblasting, and so he started a sandblasted sign business. And like growing up, I was always in their sign shop, like weeding vinyl letters and shit, and that was my introduction to sandblasting. And years later, after I had done like all sorts of like trades jobs, like carpentry and shit, and had a little business, doing exterior remodels, and it sucked. And there's too much competition that I didn't feel like I was in my niche. So I kind of like got into the whole family trade. I picked up the craft and got an old air compressor that I knew like a buddy of mine had in the woods, and put a carburetor on it, and just set up a new pot and everything, and started doing tractors and dumpsters and shit, and got it going again. And it was good. It's good to have a little bit of a trade.
Yeah. I mean, my dad and grandpa, who didn't have motorcycle shops, did like plastering and painting, union plaster, union painter. I don't really have an angle on that that I want to do at this point. And it's
actually my uncle. My grandfather was a sign painter, sort of. He was more of a drunk, but he did paint signs.
My grandpa was an incredible plasterer and also a drunk.
Yeah. But my uncle kind of picked it up from him, but he's never really turned it into a professional thing. But he took some airbrushing classes at the community center, and now he like pinstripes all of his own cars and shit. So he's like working on doing he bought a Chevy HHR with full panel, no window in the back, so he can do like a big surf. He's a Beach Boys kind of guy, and from Detroit. So he wants to do like a surfing motif type thing on his age. But yeah, like it is kind of cool how you can kind of pick up. Like I feel like it's harder in this day and age when everybody's parents are like a computer person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool how it kind of get to pick that up, the back up, and use it somehow. My
weak ass way to deal with things is like anytime I'm helping somebody paint or plaster something, or like using even spackle, I'm like, I'm going to spackle this perfectly and with respect to the tools. I'm going to do this quickly and efficiently, and it's going to look good, because otherwise my dad and grandpa would be so embarrassed that I fucked this up.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to have some kind of craft, and even if your parents weren't in something, the truth is you can do it. Even if you didn't learn it from somewhere, there's so much information out there on the internet.
Right.
And
I think that's the thing, right? Like that's kind of like what this is all about. Like the history in your family is one thing, but like it's your great grandfather didn't do signs. Your grandfather did. It's like it all starts somewhere. You know what I mean? So picking the thing up, you can start wherever. doesn't have to be that it's nature versus nurture isn't real. Like, I don't know, anybody who studied psychology and still says nature versus nurture is an idiot. It's like they work together, and it's an interaction between nature and nurture. Like, you can have things that came from whatever you believe is your lineage, and there's things that you just happen to find in your world. Like, take it all. You can start these new things. And I have now, I think, a better idea than what I was going to have you do for a sign for me. I'm going to try to get a copy of the motorcycle shop letters, because there were wooden letters out in front of it, and they all went missing when we closed the shop. So I'm going to try to see maybe we can come up with a way to blast the letters in some type of a block or plaque or something.
Yeah.
So I'll work on that and send that over to you.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
We'll
That'd
see what we can do.
Awesome.
Yeah. That sounds the meeting of family trades. Well, Hayden, did you have anything you wanted to promote other than being Dag's sign servant?
Oh my God.
Well, since apparently I'm a Fed, you can find me at CIA on Twitter or at Meal Slurp on Twitter. But no, really, the truth is, if you want to keep up with me, I don't post on Twitter that much these days because I'm in the Hobby Perverts Discord. And where I get a lot of motivation to do shit is from hanging out, and showing my friends what I'm up to, and them, holding me accountable. And if you have like anything that you want to share or anything you want like to pick someone's brain on, that's the perfect place to do it.
Yeah.
There's people in there at like every fucking level of
sure. Sure. Yeah, and we're all just trying to hang out and have fun and encourage each other to be happier and better in ourselves and nicer to the people around us. And again, the idea, the philosophy in this is, if you're doing things that make you happy and bring you joy, then you can share them with people in your life that you love, and meet new people and learn to love them. And that's really why Hayden's on here, is because it's just like Hayden's just a person in the world that we love. And you can join us right now in the Discord for happy hour chat. There's like 6 people hanging out in there, and they're like, where are you guys at? Because we're doing this. But come join us in the Discord. Hayden is our de facto social chair, planning events and talking with people. Again, the whole point of this is like, let's come together and talk about hobbies. Let's figure things out. If you don't know how to do something, let's figure it out. Yeah. The approach to most of these hobbies is the same. Start doing it and figure out what you can do, and don't get credit card debt doing it. Easy. It's easy. Talk to somebody before you spend money.
When I started, a lot of the guys that are in there are people that I kind of knew and found from Twitter when I started getting into cars, and I bought my Miata. And I remember very early on, I bought sway bars for it, and I snapped off this bolt that's like welded into the frame. And I was freaking out because, I never.
That was like
really
9 months ago.
No, it wasn't 9 months. It was like 2 years ago.
It wasn't that long.
I've had that car for over 2 years now.
I know, but I remember Boltgate.
Anyways, I was freaking out because, to me, like cars, they still are to an extent, but they're these very expensive things that I don't really understand, and I don't understand how far you can go breaking something before you've gone too far, and you need an expert like Hayden to come fix all your mistakes. And the guys in there that are now in the Discord as well were like, chill out, man. Like, you can just drill the bolt out. Like, it's not a big deal. You can figure out something different, and then we'll be fine. Like, it's like, people do this all the time. Like, probably I remember telling my buddy who doesn't, Maurice from Southpaws, if you remember him, he was like, I was telling him about how like I lost a socket or something in the engine bay, and he's like, man, are like mechanics just like leaving shit in my car all the time? I'm like, they certainly are. Like, a 10 millimeter socket somewhere in your car.
When you're going down the road after you got an oil change and you go, that sounded like a bolt. It was.
Yeah. So, even those people, I mean, now that I've worked with people who are like legit paid mechanics, like I've done repairs with them, you see how much more efficiently and stuff they work, but they still make mistakes and find things that they're like, I've never seen this before. And it is manageable, and it's more manageable when you have people that you can say, I'm horrified at myself. Like, isn't this bad?
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's like, I mean, that's like a whole episode discussion. Like, what's the line between you could probably do that and you're the guy that they're going to talk about for the next 10 years at the shop, to be like, remember that fucking guy who ended up like taking a grinder and taking his entire like wheel hub off? And it's like, you don't want to be that guy, obviously. I mean, but there's an amount that you can get in there and get a little dirty, and it's fine. They might
see it when they're doing my engine swap. I did accidentally drill out 2 screws in my fuel tank in the Miata, so like technically the seal isn't really like not as tight as it should be.
Plausible deniability. Like I bought it used. I don't know what happened before me. People track these and drift these a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes on hot days I get some gas fumes, but thankfully it's a convertible, so you just put the top down.
God, if you drive fast enough, they'll waft away from you.
I mean, if you've got the hard top on and you're huffing gas fumes, that could be the same effect as drinking exactly 3 beers.
No.
You might pass out. Folks.
Anyway.
Happy.
Go ahead.
Happy. It's Friday. You'll probably get this on Saturday. We love you. This is the first episode since our first lost episode ever. We hope you had fun. Come join us in the Discord. Come hang out with Hayden. Hayden, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Milslurp on Twitter, MILSLURP.
And where can they talk to you on Discord?
You can talk to me in the Hobby Perverse Discord. I'm Hayden Smiley Face.
Yeah, I'll put that link out there. We love you.
Yes.
Be well, perverts.